This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The wind is starting to pick up as the cold fronts are starting to arrive, and certainly a different feel and temperature to what we've had over the last few days. But this kind of weather is often good for the cats to go about their business, and hopefully we'll catch them early this morning as they're moving around on this, your very own live African safari. Good morning everybody, and welcome to Sunrise Safari. Hope that wherever you may be, that you are prepped and ready for an adventure through the African wilderness. My name is Tristan. On camera I have Morgan this morning, and we are coming to you live from Djuma and Pridelands this morning, and so we would love to hear from you. Remember, you can use the comment sections of the various platforms we stream to, as well as hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat stream, and kiddies, well, if you would like to ask a question, which we always hope that you will, you can use kidsquestions at wildearth.tv, and we shall try and answer and discuss as much as we possibly can. And given that it'll just be Lauren, myself and Steve this morning, we hope a lot of you will ask questions so we can have discussions and we can talk about all kinds of interesting things. Should be a good morning if that is the case. Now the plan for the morning is maybe just to try and find an animal. the poor cam-ups that have been with me the last 2 days have seen very little. So we're going to try and change things a little bit today. Hopefully we'll get lucky. The conditions are going to deteriorate as the morning goes. So what's going to happen is it's clear now and beautiful, but what I suspect is going to happen, given this wind that is blowing and the coldness of this wind, it will probably intensify as the morning goes on, and it will get a lot harsher and a lot colder, and that will then make it quite difficult for things like elephants, buffalo. They don't typically like that kind of condition, whereas the cats, if they're hungry, they'll be moving and they'll be hunting and they'll be looking for food. They know that the wind swirling and blowing hides the noise of them walking, as well as just kind of makes the scent for the antelope difficult to pick up. So that'll be kind of the rough plan for now, is to just try and see what's been moving around through the night, head southwards, and then we'll just slowly kind of move towards the east. Unfortunately, because we only have the 3 of us this morning, any chance of following up on Marips is not possible this morning. He's in a very, very difficult area from a signal point of view for us, and so we just don't have the number of feeds available to go and actually spend time looking for him there. So what we'll do is I'll kind of ask one of the other vehicles to go and check in and just see if they can find him, and then hopefully get a report back from there. I suspect that he's still just milling around somewhere close there. There's a little waterhole that I would like to go and check, but unfortunately that waterhole definitely has no signal at it, so I'm not sure if that's where he is, but we'll slowly head eastwards in the hope that we can maybe find Tundi, and who knows, maybe Tundi's picked him up and the 2 of them are together, which would be a really nice thing to see. So that's the kind of plan from my side. I know Lauren's going to go northwards. She's going to be checking the northern side of Djuma, and see if there's any sign of anything there, and then yeah, we'll just take it as it comes. I'm sure Steve will be looking at all the small things, from trees to insects to tracks and anything else that comes between. It's always fascinating when we have a bushwalk out. I like the bushwalks. It's a nice thing to have. It just focuses on all the things that we sometimes miss by being in a vehicle and driving around quite a bit. You know, it's not easy always to see certain things when you're driving. Alright, I was saying that the weather is possibly going to deteriorate and get colder. Talking of which, let's send you across to our weather map for this morning.
Good luck, Tristan, on your search for animals. I've been a little bit more on the lucky side. We've come across quite a large herd of buffalo who are refusing to wake up. It's far too cold for them. I agree. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera. Davy waits with his thumb. I like to just stall him there, you know. Keeps me entertained. And they're on Vuatella Access, our main access road. And you can see some of them, these ones at the front, Dav, look at them. Not fazed by the vehicle's presence, and they just don't want to wake up. I understand, guys. They're still chewing, of course. They're still chewing the cud. Now, this herd of buffalo, I really can't prove it. You've got to be careful what you say when you say that it's the same individual. You've got to know that it's the same individual when you're talking about any animal. You'd be surprised at how wrong you can get it. So I am assuming that this is the same herd that has been on Djuma for quite some time. It's a large herd, lots of youngsters, so lots of old boys, females. It's a breeding herd. But I think it's the same one. Ravi, you and Tristan had them on Zoe's yesterday, right? Balanites. Okay, I assume it's also the same one, though. And they've just moved a little bit more north. And because there's no lion activity on Djuma right now that I know of, they're obviously just loving life. Right, guys? I am desperate to catch up with the Talamatis. I know they've got cubs, and it's been about a week now since we've seen them. They're up in Buffelshoek, quite far north in Buffelshoek, or at least they were yesterday. Look at that one doing the flaming grimace. Oh, it's finished. Sorry. When buffalo do the flaming grimace, it's highly entertaining. But of course, the lions may have moved down south. I haven't searched the reserve yet. We'll spend a little bit of time with the buff, and then we'll quickly just search the rest of the reserve. You never know what we're going to find. Yesterday was a rather quiet day on the heartbeat front. So I hope today's a lot luckier for both Tristan and I. Dovey, is this one here actually sleeping? You see it? Got his head down. I think the eyes are closed. This one here, look. I think it's sleeping. Oh. At least you're protected. Susan, you're saying they remind you of a child who's incredibly sleepy but still eating. Susan, you nailed it. Totally nailed it, especially this one. And just put his head down. Those children that fall asleep at the dinner plate and the face goes bam into the dinner. I don't know why we're saying children. I could easily do that. But of course they're still eating. We had a really interesting discussion yesterday about rumination and how most of the large animals in the world are all herbivores. So you have to ask yourself, well, they're definitely getting protein because they're absolutely huge. Look at all that muscle. And they do have specialized stomachs, as you know, equipped to break down everything that's going on. But do you think they just have four pouches in their stomach? It's still one stomach. Just to break down grass. Yes, but that's not the whole story. The majority of calories and nutrients and protein that a ruminant absorbs, like a buffalo, like a cow, it's really not essentially just from the grass that they're eating, but it's from trillions of little inhabitants that are living in their stomach, aka bacteria, that are going through crazy frenzies by growing, dividing, multiplying, and dying, all inside a ruminant's stomach. So they're not just eating grass, they're eating bacteria, which grows in the grass. And that's fermenting in their stomach. And the grass is actually a food source for the bacteria. And it's the bacteria itself that's breaking down the cellulose. We always talk about cellulose. It's really difficult for a digestive system to break down, and it's the bacteria that's doing that, not the actual ruminant itself. And they are converting the grass that they're breaking down into a plethora of different amino acids. And as you know, amino acids are the building blocks to protein. So it's not the grass itself, if that makes sense. It's like a brewery, a beer brewery, fermenting. Davy looks impressed. Did you enjoy that?
Very much.
Okay, we're going to sit with the buffalo a little bit longer before we begin our search of the reserve.
Well, while Lauren sits with her buffalo, we're going to enjoy the sun rising over the horizon and listen to the sounds of the morning. amazing. It's actually quite eerily quiet this morning. Only this time of the day, as the sun's coming up, lots of birds calling. You hear the sounds of often lions calling. But this morning it's very, very, very quiet. I wonder if it's just the wind that's kind of upset the apple carts a little bit, and everybody's a bit kind of on tenterhooks at the moment. Anyway, we'll carry on. We'll see what else we can find. See if there's anything lurking. Good morning, and welcome to Eco-Training Providence. Welcome to the dawn, where we are standing here on top of a termite mound greeting the sun. Hello everybody, my name is Steve, joined by Paul on camera. As always, very excited to have you with us on board. We are on bushwalk. We're going to do some tracking this morning. There was a young male leopard seen this area last night. We're going to see if we can maybe find him and look at some tracks in the sand. Maybe do a little tracking quiz today, Tuesday tracking. I think might be a nice way to get the week off to a fast start. But heard some elephants making a big noise towards the west. But a nice moment in the day to just reflect on your day ahead. We had new moon 2 days ago, 3 days ago now. Always a nice time to put some intentions in, and with the rising of the sun each day, put some intention into your day. See how you did yesterday. Maybe try and improve some of those things today. So 50, it is a beautiful sunrise through the knobthorn and marula woodland. You can hear the tapping of a bearded woodpecker. Heard the chirring of a striped kingfisher before, and the high pitched whistle of the pearl-spotted owlet. The dawn chorus, everybody. All the birds announcing to the world that they survived the night. They survived the cold and the predators that were prowling, and making sure any of their own ilk stay out of their territory. We're going to walk on, see if we can find some tracks of this male leopard, and then we send you back over to Djuma and Lauren.
The sun is now, well, it's now pretty high in the sky, and it's casting that gorgeous orangey golden light across the buffalo. It's making you guys look so pretty. This one here is also refusing to wake up, the one at the front. You're awake. We see you. And just wrapping up that sort of digestive system. So if you think about a brewery, it's like put any plant material into a sort of dark, wet, and fairly anaerobic, which means oxygen-starved, environment, with the sort of end goal of growing microbes, bacteria. This will always produce a tastier and essentially more nutritious product. I'm not saying beer is nutritious, but in any situation, put plant material in a dark, wet, fairly anaerobic environment, and lo and behold, there will be a delicious end product. And that's what's happening here. And the microbial digestion actually happens at the beginning of the digestive tract. So when you think of the ruminant and their little 4 special pouches, it's not happening towards the end of the digestive tract. It's happening at the start so that the food can filter through. And I mean, you've got the omasum, the abomasum, the rumen, and the reticulum. So you've got 4 different pouches, but it's still the one stomach. It's wrong to say that a ruminant has 4 stomachs. They don't. Okay, we're going to just sit here a little bit longer. And for now, over to Tristan.
Well, while Lauren sits with buffalo, we've got some pachyderms that have emerged, and it's one of my favorite herds that we see out here. It's not a big herd, and certainly not the most impressive from a kind of members herd, but it's got one very, very special elephant in it, and that's short trunk. So she's a little elephant. You can see she's missing the tip of her trunk. You can see it when she breaks the branches like that. She's also broken her tusk by the looks of things recently. The last time I saw her, her tusk was not broken like that. So obviously she's been digging and has kind of chipped the front of her tusk, which is commonplace for elephants. Hello, my girl. Let's see if she's going to break this bush next to us. You'll see, even though the tip of her trunk and those 2 little fingers have been severed off, it's not like she has any problems with feeding. She's still very, very, very capable of being able to break branches and pick them up and put them into her mouth. Oh, that light on her is magnificent. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, basically it's an elephant that's tip of its trunk was lost. We don't know how. We suspect that maybe caught in a snare and then kind of severed off. But yeah, it's an injury that she's had ever since I've been here, and it doesn't stop her at all. She's able to still kind of feed okay, and she finds the food that she needs and drinks fine. And sometimes when she drinks, things go a little awry, because when she sprays the water, it can sometimes shoot out the side of her mouth. But she's generally not too incapacitated by her trunk. It's interesting though, she's also quite a unique individual. Maybe not a unique individual, but individual that we see moving in and out of herds quite a lot. So I've seen her joining big groups of elephants and multiple different herds, not just the same one every single time. So I've seen her with Fang's herd. I've seen her with a herd with another female that's got a very distinctive long set of tusks that come down. Seen her in that group as well. And then she was with a herd that had a female with twins. She joined that group for a while too. So she's kind of in and out a lot. Her main kind of grouping, or her family, consists of her and then 2 youngsters, and is often accompanied by a young bull. So her 2 youngsters are the ones that are busy on the termite mound, playing around and eating. And so that's generally what we see is 4 of them together. Sometimes, like I said, there might be other young little bulls that attach, but for the most part it should just be her 2 offspring and then the young male that follows them around, which could also be hers. It's possible. We don't really know the age of her or her offspring that well, and because kind of body size and sort of shape of her head would indicate that she's not the oldest elephant, I don't think she would be able to have had 3 different calves of the size that they are. So I mean, the elephants that we're talking about here are all kind of quite big already. I'm hoping that maybe she's pregnant and we'll have a little one soon, because it'll be nice to see her with a tiny little baby again. I always think it's quite crazy, and you forget about these things, but since I've been at WildEarth, theoretically most of the elephant moms that have had babies should be having their next ones already now. Maybe even more. I can hear another elephant coming. I wonder if that's not the young male that's coming down. He often is the last one to arrive in amongst the group. beautiful elephant. It just goes to show the importance of sitting still sometimes, because the reason we found these elephants is because we stopped to admire the sunrise, and we heard them feeding deep in the block and just sat and waited, and they eventually came out a little bit further and we were able to kind of see them from the road. So it just goes to show at this time of the day, sitting and listening for a little bit is not the worst thing. Kat, you say always a special day when we get to see Short Trunk. It is. It's always nice to see her. She's an elephant that we don't see every day, but she's quite common here. She's an ellie that spends probably more time on Djuma than most. She obviously likes the area and knows that she can get decent water and food throughout this little section. So kind of see her, not like I said, it's not every day, and it certainly sometimes goes weeks without it, but she's probably the most consistent in terms of individuals that we recognize. There might be others that come through that just we don't recognize, because elephants can be tough to recognize when you don't see them a lot, and also because of the sheer number of them. Sometimes we can have 5, 6, 7 different herds on this property, and it's difficult to then know who is who. But there's certain individuals that have very strong characteristics, and obviously her missing tip to her trunk makes her pretty easy to identify, along with the likes of Fang, which is another elephant that some of you will know and some of you won't. Fang has got a tusk that grows backwards, so instead of going forward away from her mouth, it grows back towards her front legs. So she's pretty distinctive, and there's quite a few members of her herd that is also quite distinctive from a tusk's point of view. There's 2 females. One's got a very straight left tusk that goes down compared to the right one. She's in that herd as well. So like those kind of things help us to kind of recognize little members of herds, but it can be quite tricky to know them all. So out of the ones that we do know, she definitely is the one that spends the most time out of the cows. Bulls wise, we probably have others too. Well, no, exactly. I mean, this is the crazy thing about animals, and and I suppose in many ways it ties into kind of some of the stuff that's been going on lately with, some of our animals have carrying injuries and things like that, is that animals can adapt, and they do adapt. I mean, I've seen wild dogs that have lost 2 legs, and they're still running around with a pack and hunting. There's hyenas that have damaged their spine that will be able to run on 2 legs. So, animals are resilient, and they are certainly capable of figuring out ways to survive, even when the tables are turned quite heavily away from their favor. And you find that as long as you give them the space and the time, a lot of them can recover and learn and change the way that they do things. And I suppose people are no different. I mean, there's many, 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 many people in the world that have overcome difficulties, whether that be, amputations or going blind or loss of hearing or any of those things. People are, I know modern medicine helps, and we have creature comforts and things that help with this stuff, but there's no doubt that those that do lose senses or limbs and things like that still live very functional lives, and are able to adapt and adjust. So, I think we, as part of the kind of mammal chain, are just as capable in many ways. It's just that animals do it without any sort of medical care, which is probably what's so amazing about it. Alright, so I'm just going to reverse back. I was going to try to go forward, but it's a little tight to where they're feeding, and I don't want them to get upset or to feel like they have to leave their termite mound. So what I'm doing is just going to go around the mound a little bit and catch them on the other side. We'll also have the light in our favor because it's gotten very bright now. Alrighty, let me get around and see if we can't get a nice view of them on the mound.
Hello, my name is Marnie Kell from the Greater Toronto Area of Ontario, Canada. I am most excited to meet some of the guides that I feel I already know. And I'm going to very much enjoy riding along with them to see what they see most days while they're broadcasting these safaris to us. While also staying at the beautiful Simbambili Lodge. WildEarth.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at andBeyond Angola. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra, because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Angola for a sunrise and sunset safari on WildEarth.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Welcome back everybody, and welcome to a first track of the morning, and a very exciting track. I absolutely love finding tracks of this animal. I love finding this animal actually. Here we go. Here is the way he's been walking. There's 1 foot, 2 feet, 3, moving almost on a straight line. When you draw a line through the track, this gives you a good indication of what animal it might be, but we've got a few of them over here up ahead, and we can detail it quite nicely. This animal is an animal that's always on the move, and when it's moving, it's hence why it runs on a straight line like that. Some people might confuse it with another animal. Here we go. Here is the size. Here is the foot. Here's the front left foot. Could be the back left, I'm not sure. There's a toe, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's the back pad and the back pad. Now you see how this forms a P. And you see the P there. You can see that P here, quite nicely to see. And in front of the toes, look where the nails are. They are incredibly far ahead. Those nails. Okay, so this animal likes to dig. There's a P in the pad, and the toes are over there. Now, running at quite a nice speed, we've got a beautiful, beautiful track of a honey badger. Now, when I show you the P, this is the right, so it's obviously a backwards P, but there we're looking at the left. See how it shows a P in the track? And then there's actually 5 toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a 5th toe. Over there, and then the claws. See how far ahead the claws are on these fellows. Very, very far, and they use them for digging. Very, very good at digging. And when honey badger is moving very quickly, that is why we see them on a straight line like that. You can often confuse this for porcupine, but a porcupine's got an extra proximal pad over here, which almost forms a B. So nice, easy thing to remember. P for badger and B for porcupine. I know it sounds a bit backwards, but it's a nice way of remembering it. Very nice to see honey badgers in the sand. And what can we say about honey badgers? By the tracks. What I love about tracks is the tracks can give you an indication of what an animal's behavior is. Now, first of all, the track is what we call plantigrade, very much like a human's track would be. The whole foot is going down. That's why that other pad is over there. Porcupine, people, monkeys, honey badgers all have what we call a plantigrade track. So you can see the toes, the pad, and the foot. The whole foot is on the ground, and then the nails. Ungulates, impala and the like, they walk just on the nails. We call that unguligrade. Predators walk on the tips of the toes. Okay. And then plantigrades walk on the whole foot.
So with this track, you can see that it puts down a lot of its foot. It's got large claws, which are used for climbing and digging, and obviously moving around on the ground. These fellows are really, they are my favorite. So finding honey badgers always gets me very, very excited. Okay, so we're going to move on to see what other tracks we can find for you. I will send you over to Tristan, who's caught up with some elephants.
While Steve looks for tracks, we're still just sitting with Short Trunk and O'Hara. It's nice just to sit here. It also gives me an opportunity to listen and be able to pick up any signs of anything. It's been fairly quiet besides the usual fork-tailed drongos calling, and I can hear some buffalo. I don't know if it's the same herd Lauren's with, because where Lauren says they are is further to access side. And the buffalo I can hear sound like they're much closer to where I am. So maybe there's another group on the property. It wouldn't surprise me. We've had so many buffalo of late. Could very well be that it's a small sort of breakaway section, or a couple of bulls that are together doing their own thing. Sorry about the radio, everybody. I just turned it on because I forgot that I actually have to use a radio on Game Drive. Sometimes I forget about it and I don't actually put it on for quite a while, particularly in the mornings. I don't know why I do, but I do. Sometimes it's just like, well, go and find our own things for a while, and then if we don't realize it, we'll turn it on. But you can see how they've absolutely loved this termite mound. It's quite interesting to have seen the young one was the first one to go, and then everybody else has kind of joined in. And this termite mound, for me, always holds quite a significance. It's a mound where we saw Shadow quite a lot. She used to sit on this mound quite regularly. So whenever I see this mound, I always think of her. I remember we had one particular sighting of her on this mound, where she had a kill not far away. And her and Not Barbara played around on this mound, and then Not Barbara went down to, I say Not Barbara, for those of you who don't know, at one point we called Shadow's Cub Not Barbara. I don't know how else to refer to it, but Shadow's Cub, her last one. But it's a ridiculous name, I know. But yeah, then she sat on this mound. We had the most beautiful sighting of her, just kind of chilling on the mound and taking it easy. I'm sad that she's gone. She was a nice cat. I know a lot of people, gave her a hard time about her mothering skills and all of that, and she did struggle, to raise cubs, but it wasn't because she was a useless cat. It was just that she was in a very, very difficult spot. She was on the fringes of multiple territories, and also had 2 clans of hyenas that she dealt with in her territory, because she was kind of half in the EP clan's territory and half in the Djuma clan's territory. And then that's just like she had a lot of things that she had to kind of deal with, and it meant that she just had lots of bad luck when it came to raising of cubs. And a lot of females do. I was saying the other day that unlike elephants, who are so kind of successful in breeding and being able to produce calves in a system where they're left alone, leopards have a much tougher time, as do lions. And it's reckoned that only in terms of on average here in this part of the world, that leopard moms will raise only 1.6 cubs on average. I know it's 1.6 is not possible, but that's the average. So any leopard that raises multiple litters is generally doing quite well out here. And it just goes to show how tough it can be for these leopard females, and how spoiled we've been having the females that we've had. I mean, we've got 3 females that have been incredibly successful out here, which is obviously Karula is the most successful individual. I don't think I've heard of another leopard like her in terms of just the sheer ability to raise not only litters, but the cubs that were born into those litters, every single one of them, bar that one litter that she lost. It's pretty crazy, because most leopards, even if they raise litters, will lose maybe one within the litter at some point. So to raise all of them is a special kind of leopard. But then Tundi being the other one, and the other one that has done very well and is still a young leopard is Sabui. She's only had 2 sets of cubs, and she's raised both sets to adulthood. So she's clearly a pretty smart cat as well. She's done very, very well for herself in raising her 3 offspring that she has so far. just watching Short Trunk. She's so funny. She kind of only eats half of what she actually puts in her mouth. So Jerome, it's an interesting topic. Orphan calves depends on the age as to whether or not elephants will take them in and allow them to absorb into the herd. If they are very small and they're still milk dependent, then generally the answer to that is no, because elephant moms that have their own calves already that are producing milk will not want an outsider drinking from there and taking nutrients away from their own baby. And so they're actually quite defensive of their teats. They'll kind of push others away, even if it's siblings and things like that. They'll chase them and only allow their immediate baby to suckle. So if it's at that age, then no, generally you find that the orphans are just abandoned and they won't take them in. If it's an animal that has completely weaned and is on vegetation, then it's very possible that they actually take them in and they kind of become part of the herd. And that's the sort of premise of a rehabilitation center for elephants up in East Africa. Basically what they do is they try and get the babies past a certain point, so into their teens, early teens, when they start to become sexually mature. And by then, obviously, they're weaned off milk. They have an idea of what they need to do. And most of those elephants will assimilate into a herd. So they'll join wild elephants and become part of the grouping. It's not always a quick process, and it certainly takes a bit of time, but it is possible for orphaned individuals to join with wild herds, but it's not when they are little. Like I say, if they're still milk dependent, then they need to, be with their moms or be under human care in order to survive. There's very little ability for wild elephants to look after little babies, and like I say, they just don't want to either. It's quite interesting. I mean, I know it's a kind of fascinating concept because of how intelligent elephants are. You would think that they would try to look after their own kind, but as intelligent as they are, they're also quite selfish in some respects because they need to protect their little one as much as possible. There's still this wild element of animals in nature that have this my kind of offspring first mentality, which is not surprising given, the fact that mom has to carry that little baby for 22 months and then, provide for it, that they have a much bigger attachment and much more kind of pressing desire to raise that rather than trying to raise something else that's not theirs. But you can never say never. That's the one amazing part about nature, is that when we talk about stuff like this and situations that are hypothetical, so like adopting of young ones, we can say that, it doesn't normally happen, but you can never say never. Nature's got ways of just kind of disproving all kinds of things and unique circumstances taking place, and elephant adopting an orphan could very well be one of those unique circumstances that could happen in the future.
Welcome back to Pradens and to a leadwood that is recovering from being damaged. A little bit of coppice growth emerging out. Some new fresh leaves. Hardekool is the Afrikaans name for the leadwood. It is one of the bush willow plants or species, although no one ever calls it a bush willow. Leadwood for its dense and hard wood. Protected tree. Makes a very hard charcoal, good charcoal, but it is not allowed to be made anymore.
as you can see, the little ones are still on the mound feeding. This one is scratching its bum while it's feeding. I love baby elephants, they're the best. They make me laugh a lot. Like I say, when you can scratch your bottom while feeding, you have a talent. Now what's interesting also is with this particular grouping is that her young ones have the herpes virus. So if you look at the elephant on the right hand side, he's going to fall down here, isn't he? If you look at the trunk, you'll notice these dermal bumps on the trunk itself. So it is a herpes virus that is pretty exclusive to elephants. So it's called ETTV, I think it is, which is elephant theotropic, ETHV, that's right, theotropic herpes virus, and essentially occurs in younger animals. Now, I discussed this before, but it was interesting to me because this was the herd that I first noticed it in, where I was like, these elephants all have these bumps on their trunks and sometimes even on their flanks. And I was very confused by it because it didn't look like any sort of normal thing that you would get, like a little abscess or something like that. It almost looks like, acne for a human. And so I kind of reached out to a few people and asked around, and apparently within the Kruger system, it's actually been something that was kind of discovered here a few years ago. And it is, like I say, only in these particular elephants. And what you find is that the young ones are affected by it, but the older ones actually are fine. They grow out of it, apparently, and the bumps and everything disperse. So they have it, and then kind of it shows in these big bumps on their trunks for the beginning part of their lives. And once they sort of go through puberty, by the sounds of it, those bumps start to dissipate, and you won't notice it as an adult. But it's quite weird. It almost looks like they've got something wrong with their trunks, but they actually doesn't bother them too much, and they're okay. Wondering, this angle here with short trunks, she's kind of around the back of the mound, but she does look like she might be showing signs of being pregnant. If you look at the side of her tummy, how much it's sticking out, it's possible, maybe early stages still. It's difficult to tell with an elephant in the first year and a bit of them being pregnant. They only really show towards the sort of end. But it's interesting, she's not by herself in just her group. I see another part of a herd coming here. So she's obviously with one of the groupings that she likes to join. And you'll very often find, look, you see she's reacting to the other ones coming down the hill. You'll very often find that elephants, when they're feeding, and they're in feeding behavior, that they will separate out into their own little family groups. So the mom with their little offspring, and then other moms with their offspring, and so family pods within the herd structure itself. And only when they actually want to move to somewhere where they feel like they're going to drink water, so for example, or something like that, will everybody come together and walk in a very straight line. It's cool to see. I love watching elephant behavior and the subtleties of the communication within them. Guys are also very dirty this morning. What have you been up to? I wonder if they haven't been on one of the burnt areas and playing around with the ash. So, David, generally female elephants, in terms of their reproduction cycle, they'll start very early. Obviously, we know that they start when they can start as early as 12 years old, which is very early. But in terms of last calves, I've heard a few figures thrown around, and normally it's kind of just before they reach the 50s, so the late 40s is normally their last one that they tend to have. Remember also, it's quite dependent on area, because here in this part of the world, our elephants actually die earlier than other parts of the world, and that's because of the abrasive nature of the food sources that they eat. We've got a lot of very, very, very heavy food. You can imagine eating bark, and all these wooded structures are quite heavy on the teeth. The wearing of the teeth is substantial, and so these guys, unfortunately, once that sixth set is worn, that starvation process starts to take place and they eventually die from it. And that means normally that our elephants' kind of average age are around 50, 55, somewhere there. Whereas in other parts of the world, you'll find that the ellies can go a little bit longer, particularly if they're in places where they're eating soft vegetation. So like the Delta area, even up in East Africa, those average ages are closer towards 60. So that'll also just adjust slightly the timing of the last calf. But I'm hoping this ellie on the mount turns a little bit so we can actually see his trunk properly, because he's still got all his little bumps on it. It's just that he's got his head in the grass feeding. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but every now and then he turns his trunk upwards and you can actually see all those little bumps on it. The best time to see it is when they're actually drinking water. That's when you get a really good opportunity. See, when he comes up, you'll notice them. It's on the tip of the trunk towards where the little fingers are. You'll notice those bumps on there. It almost looks like cactus-like without the spines in some respects. Fascinating though, isn't it, that they're able to overcome it. We were talking earlier about how nature overcomes certain things, but it amazes me that naturally they kind of develop a resistance to it, and it means that the symptoms start to dissipate a little bit. This ellie looks like he's going to fall down this mound. It's grown so much, this elephant. I remember when we first started to see this ellie was little still. Back in 2016, 17 I think it was born maybe 2016, somewhere there. Still very small little ellie. Grown a lot. A lot of you were saying that the first time we ever saw her was in 2009 on WildEarth, which is amazing, isn't it? To think that for 12 years we've had visuals on this elephant. I think it's a pretty cool thing that we kind of keep up with some of the ellies too, because they are equally fascinating when it comes to their lifespans and their sort of way of their kind of journey that they take in order to survive and live out here. So much emphasis on Djuma particularly is on our leopards, but all the animals that we've had an ability to follow regularly have a lot of value in that they represent their species incredibly well, and people learn about things. I mean, if you look at the hyenas, you look at the lions, you look at their short trunk, all of these things allow us to learn a lot about certain animals and potentially shift and change people's mindsets to better understand and therefore better care for the animals that are around. And I think that's one of the powers that we have in this show, is that we have such longevity with the animals, and it's a daily kind of update that people can really start to understand animals that much better. And it's not all sensationalized and made out to be something that it's not, like some of the documentaries out there. Anyway, I think what we're going to do is probably leave these guys now. I'm going to meander southwards. No one's been checking south. We'll let these guys carry on with their morning. In the meantime, I'll send you across to Steve.
Welcome back to Priders, everyone, where we have found another track to compare with the previous track, and it's quite a nice one, not far away from the other one. I had to really look hard because part of the track and part of the form of it actually mingles with the other animal that we saw before. But here you can see once again the knife measures from here to about there, the foot, but then over here is actually a nail just in front of these toes. So once again, we've got the toes in the sand, but have a look at how much more pad there is on this one. So where we had the P for the badger, we've got much wider semi-B over here for the porcupine. So very nice to compare the two and to actually show you now in the book, the track over here. When I talk about the B, it's obviously not a very clear B, but there's so much more pad over here. Take that piece away over there and you sort of get that P. So the porcupine has got a very similar track to the honey badger, but this back proximal pad area is much wider, an extra pad entirely there with the same amount of toes. The nails are there as well. They're not as pronounced as that of the honey badger, but still the porcupine uses its nails for digging. They can climb. They are a rodent, the largest rodent in southern Africa, and they use their claws for digging so as to get access to roots and bark of trees, which is primarily what they feed on, lots of fruits as well. But they are also responsible for damaging trees and allowing fire to get into a tree through the root system. Small little diggings at the bottom of a tree eventually can lead to that plant getting damaged, and we always go and say elephants are responsible for structurally damaging all the plants. Well, porcupines do that as well. So very nice to see a track in the sand. Can you see how clearly this is much wider than that of the badger that we saw? Very good. And in the sand, you'll actually see it over here as well. There's the interesting changes. There's the extra bit of proximal pad over there. So always have a look, see what else you can find. Often porcupines have got a very nice trail over here from where the quills have been dragging, but I don't see any of that right here.
Suspended above Kenya's Masai Mara is a breathtaking lodge where unrivaled service goes hand in hand with extraordinary wildlife sightings. Ngala Mara offers a quiet place where guests have the opportunity to reconnect with the world again. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of July, and you and a friend could win a 3-night stay at this award-winning lodge. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth safari guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
Well, we've left our Ailey's on our way now to the southern reaches towards Treehouse Dam. Yeah, no track so far to speak of, or any signs of anything moving around. And it's not to say that there won't be somewhere down at the bottom here, but we'll just double check and see. I don't know, it's been weird. We haven't seen much of Moya lately. She seems to have... I'm hoping she's just been on a big kill somewhere and taking it easy. But we'll just scratch and have a little look around and see if maybe she's popped over. Tlalamba is always the wild card. She can be anywhere at any time. But we know that she's been enjoying the southern sort of section quite a lot of late. We're going to Little Gowrie and Hoffman's and pretty much all over the place. So we'll kind of just check for her as well. Unfortunately, down this side, male-wise, we don't really have much in the way of male options. This is kind of just Mulawati, all of this section. And so we know how he is. Some days you'll catch him and he'll kind of walk across the road and won't run, and the other days he doesn't want anything to do with you and just avoids you, and well, he's the way that he is. So I don't think we'll get much of him. But you never know. Sometimes, like, it's weird. Sometimes you can find something like a drag mark and you find him on a kill and, you know, maybe get a decent-ish view of him in the mornings. It doesn't happen often, but it's possible. The thing is, though, is that I sat very quietly at those ellies for a while and there was nothing. There was no audio of lions calling, no audio of leopards sawing, no audio of alarm calls. Just quite strange. Normally when we have that sun rising like that, and you're sitting quietly, you can hear, even if it's not on your area, you can hear lions roaring from Mala Mala, or you can hear lions roaring from Manyeleti, Buffels Hook, sometimes even far towards Kruger. If the wind's carrying them in the right direction, you can pick it up from a long way. But this morning there was nothing. I didn't hear a single thing, and I'm surprised because Darkmane should be to the west here. So I would have thought that he would have been shouting a little bit during the course of the night and early this morning, but it seems like he isn't, so which makes me wonder if maybe he's either rejoined with the pride or he's found himself something that he's eating, often scavenging from leopards. Anyway, onward and forward we go. Let's see what we find. In the meantime, though, across to Steve, who's doing tracking.
Thanks, Tristan, and welcome back, everyone, to Pride. As we thought, well, seeing as we're doing some plantigrade tracks this morning, we might as well do a third plantigrade track. And here is the back foot of this animal. I just put the knife down for comparison for size. There's the back foot, and there's the thumb, and the toes. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. There's sort of the part of the foot, and the back of the foot, the heel. Here is the hand, there's the thumb, and then the long fingers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the back of this hand is squared off. Now, it's a decent size, so you wouldn't confuse this with the monkey, but when you do find young baboons, this is a sort of a semi-mature baboon. When you do find a mature baboon like this, it's very hard to confuse it with the monkey. A monkey, when it's smaller, has got, or should I say when a baboon is smaller, this pad can be very similar, but the monkey's got this V over here in the back of the front of the hand. This little V that comes off towards the shoulder, V for vervet, but baboons are squared off like that. Have a look at the size. We spoke yesterday about dominant males. You can see that this is the very classic way a baboon walks. A baboon puts its hand down and then it puts its foot down. So left hand, left foot. Monkeys as well, when they put their hand down, their back foot comes over here in line. So they walk in a parallel shuffling motion, whereas baboon will put their hand down and their foot goes just inside that of the hand. So that's when they're walking. So it's basically next to each other, whereas monkeys are in a straight line behind. And sometimes with the monkey, you'll even see the drag of the tail, which you'll never see with that of a baboon. Baboons, sometimes if they sit down, you might see where their tail has sat, or you might also see that sort of round bit of the bottom. Just like if you sat down in the sand, you'd also see a round bit of your bottom. Okay, so there's the very nice picture of a baboon hand. You can see the long fingers and the thumb, and then the back pad, or the back foot. So sometimes people can confuse baboon tracks with that of a leopard. For example, if I show you this picture here, you'll see that you get the long fingers and you get that. Sometimes that's all you see, and so sometimes people can confuse that for a baboon, for a leopard, but leopard's got the 3 lobes at the back, and those are long, and leopards, those are quite sort of oval. Andy, there's only one type of baboon here in South Africa. It's called the Chakma baboon, also known as the Savannah baboon. As we go further north, we get the yellow baboon in Malawi and Zambia, and then up in Kenya, you get the olive baboon. But they are essentially very, very similar. They've just evolved slightly differently where they occur, but they're also regarded as the Savannah baboon. But down here in South Africa, all the way down to the Cape, Chakma baboon, for their very long dog-like face and they are territorial with regards to their troops. The dominant males form an oligarchy, and they defend their group against marauding lions and against other baboons. So we're going to get up and find you some more tracks. We're going to send you to Lauren, who seems like she's also on the move.
Why would I go there? Why? I'm at the hyena den, doing what I do, which is called lurking. It's called being a very nosy neighbour. But really, I don't see anything. It's difficult to see, and of course we've been very, very lucky due to the kindness of Paulie on Little Gowrie to come in and actually see the den and see the sort of clan every so often. But I don't see any activity. It's always worth checking. You never know, you might get some individuals on the road. No tracks though, not a single track. Okay guys, bye. We've definitely not been walking up and down Gowrie Main, that's for sure. But believe it or not, Chitwa's a really good place to check for hyenas right now. Good morning, sirs. You can see we've got an older boy and a younger boy there. Giving no clue away about anything that's happening around us. But I'm sure you guys know everything, don't you? Okay, Dobby, let's keep bumbling. I'm going to drive past the area we normally see Batilda. I check every single day, but one day we are going to get lucky, and then we're going to head north. Let's see if anything exciting is happening up that way. No, they definitely make a seasonal shift, that's for sure. But not necessarily. I mean, they are primarily nocturnal, so it's entirely normal for them to be more active at nighttime when it's colder. And they're very responsive to the mothers at this stage. Even if they're in a deep sleep and mom comes and calls them, they're going to wake up, they're going to follow mom. During the day, sometimes when that sun first appears, you will find that they're just basking, I guess, not in the reptilian sense, but they're just getting a little bit of sun before they go down for the day. And that's completely normal with hyenas. They are really nocturnal. They will feel the cold. There definitely will be a seasonal shift, but I don't think it'll mean that they stay in the den longer. I think they will just be very, very nocturnal right now. And there's only 2 cubs in the den as well. There's only Novella and Intima's son at this stage. Now we are going to go through this dip. But as soon as we're up the top, I might go through a tiny little frozen picture and it'll pop right back again. There we go. Okay, I'm in the area of... Just going to stop and see if I can see her little outline anywhere. And I believe Tristan has made it to a waterhole.
Good luck, Lauren, with Batilda. I hope that you do find Batilda. Jared, also if you can ask Lauren to please get hold of Aubrey on the radio, because Aubrey has been calling Lauren a few times, so I don't know if you can please ask her just to do that. Right, so we're at Treehouse Dam, absolutely heaving with animals, as you can see. There is life abounding from all corners of Treehouse Dam right now. No, there's absolutely nothing going on at Treehouse Dam. There is a Blacksmith Lapwing. Morgan? Blacksmith Lapwing, can you see it? Don't get too excited. You don't have to get shaky on the camera there. We'll be all right, don't worry. I'm not sure, but we'll try our very best. So yeah, very quiet. Blacksmith Lapwing, which is just doing its Blacksmith Lapwing-y thing, which is kind of cruising on the fringes of the waterhole, looking for all kinds of food items. I've been surprised actually to see how few birds are at this dam. I would have expected at least a resident pair of Egyptian geese here, which I don't see, which surprises me, because Egyptian geese are the bane of South Africa's existence when it comes to birds, because they are overtaking everywhere and they're causing all kinds of issues, from sort of taking habitat away from our smaller ducks that we get in these areas, to causing many a greenskeeper on golf courses to pull out their hair and go particularly angry towards Egyptian geese because of what they do to the golf courses. But they really are a bit of a nuisance. They've become quite invasive. I like Egyptian geese, little chicks, they're cute, but they really are quite intense birds, and they proliferate very, very quickly. And so I'm surprised that a waterhole like this doesn't actually have a pair at it, given how many are in the area. There's a lot around Chitwa Dam that fight all the time. So I just would have expected two to arrive here and just kind of settle down here for a little bit. But maybe it's just because this waterhole has been fairly busy of late. They just don't feel as safe. I don't know what it is, why we don't have Egyptian geese, but it's surprising nonetheless. But yeah, no tracks to speak of here. There's just tracks for a hyena that came and drank. I checked down at the bottom here. There's like a little place where a lot of the animals like to drink and utilize, and just the hyena track that's there. So I expect that's really the only thing that's come down. I was kind of hoping that we'd just pick up tracks for one of the girls walking in this area, but alas, nothing. It's crazy how this dam has kind of gone to a point where we don't see a lot at it. This used to be one of the most productive dams on Djuma. We used to see lots of leopard here, and the Ngala Pride used to love this dam as well, and the Birminghams too. We used to find them here quite regularly. So it's interesting how it ebbs and flows, and certain areas become busy at some times, and then it kind of changes, and we start to see changes in the territories and the way things do, or way things move around. It fascinates me, and how quickly it does change. If we look at 2017, 2018, this was Karula, 2017 was Karula, the Cubs and Tingana, and then obviously Shadow, whereas now it's just kind of a little bit devoid of permanent leopards at this stage. Anyway, we're going to carry on and see what else we can go and find.
Welcome back to Pridelands, where we've got some distant audio that has become much closer, of some elephants, while we just stand here and listen and figure out the safety of our position. We're just going to spend a few moments in silence.
we're on our way to see if we can catch up with the mighty, gorgeous, charismatic Darkmane, who we believe is around. I haven't seen Darkmane in quite a while, so that's where we're heading. You've got to love Darkmane. How can you not? I believe, if I'm not correct, he was quite, if I'm not wrong, sorry, he was quite far down on Arathusa, quite far south the other day. There's lots of interesting theories and things happening with the lion dynamics. And naturally, he seems to always be on his own. He's very much part of the Avoca coalition. If he meets up with Darkmane and Blondie, it won't be aggressive or there'll be no animosity. He's part of that coalition. Brotherhood. But he's naturally always on his own. He tries to stay with the Talamati pride, whereas the other boys stay a lot more with the Nkuhumas. So of course, being on his own without the support of his coalition mates, it's a tricky one for Darkmane. Especially if there's lots of other males moving in from the Kruger. So that's where we're heading now, since we had no luck at the hyena day. You always got to stop and check at these four-way junctions. One of these days there'll be a leopard working towards me. Peter, I really don't think so. I mean, we don't find animals having dropped dead from the cold out here. What you've got to remember is that these animals have been gracing these lands long before humans. They are equipped to adapt. Adaptation is one of the most fundamental sort of processes for survival out here. If it got too cold and all the animals dropped dead, then you've not really got a functioning animal kingdom. And there'll be physiological adaptations, behavioral adaptations, in order for every organism to adapt with the cold. And some can, and that's why they burrow, and that's why they... I don't know what Davi's pointing at. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Davi. So yes, I can't remember what I was saying now. Yes, they're equipped to make adaptations, and those that really can't will burrow underground. They'll either hibernate or estivate or just go dormant. There's lots of different types of dormancy. And I've got a kudu over here. And for mammals, it's tricky because they don't go dormant. In this area, I know bears hibernate and whatnot, but it's all about adapting to the surroundings. Some species grow an extra layer of blubber or fat. Some species' hair gets much thicker. Some species hide in special areas where they're sheltered from the wind. Most mammals eat a lot more to fuel their metabolism. It's not going to get too cold unless absolutely the temperatures drop to below freezing. Then, of course, we may have trouble. But the animals are equipped with weather variations, climatic variations, thunderstorms. They can be really scary here for us, and we think, oh, what about the animals? But they're used to it. It's part of their normal sort of life cycle. They'll all be equipped to adapt. Whether they enjoy the cold, that's another question. But they'll be ready for it. They'll be ready to adapt out here. I think Darkmane's up on Bovasuk Cutlet, so that's where we're heading to. The buffaloes have really left their mark everywhere. Cheetah cut line, which is where we are now, the eastern boundary, is quite a prominent boundary for things to move. So I always try and pay attention with looking on cheetah cut line. Left, road for tracks, right, road for tracks, left. Try to make sure you cover everything. Okay, I'm going to make my way to the northern boundary and hopefully we get lucky with Mr. Darkwave.
The importance of forests cannot be underestimated. Over 1 billion people live in and around forests, depending on them for fuel, food, medicine, and building materials. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, is the national implementer for a program called LEAF. The LEAF program makes use of indigenous forests grown on school properties to teach pupils about biodiversity. This directly instills a sense of ownership of the natural surroundings and reconnects children with our biomes and heritage. WESA needs your help to bring nature back to schools. Ask your school to join the program through the link on their website. Together with WESA, you can help take this incredible program to schools across the country.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back once again to the ground here in Providence, where we've got a beautiful track here on the move. An animal that slithered through the soil. Slither, 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 slither. Now, what I'm doing over the next few days and the last couple of days is the tracks I've been showing, and to demonstrate what they are, who they are, so that in a couple of days we can do a field observation, which means then you get to decide on who you think stepped there, stood there, moved there, slithered there. Okay, obviously I can't ask you questions I haven't shown you before. Many of you are old viewers, many of you are new viewers. Tracks like this you might not have seen before, so it's very hard for me to show you or to ask you to tell me what a track is if you've never seen it before. But slithering on the ground is a very nice track of a snook or a snake. You can see how it's moved. And a nice question as well for such a track is also, what direction did it head in? And now you'll notice that there's a mound of soil pushed there, mound of soil pushed there, mound of soil pushed there. On this side it's free, on this side it's free, which means that the snake was going in that direction. Okay, there are 3 different types of serpentine or snake movements. One is the serpentine, which we all know, the slithering. It's a place in wilderness called the Serpentine, which is where the river does that. Then you get the puff adder, or pythons that do the rectilinear, which moves like this, like a concertina. And then you get the sidewinder, which we don't really see here, but the sidewinding snake will leave tracks like this in the sand, because they're sort of sidewinding and then touching the ground. It's a way of preventing them from overheating by touching the ground. So they'll leave sort of serpentine, slithering sort of marks like that as they move across. But we don't find serpentine snakes here. So this is a very nice sort of type of track. What movement, what direction, and what was it? Nice, eh? This is snake, serpentine, moving that way, and that way is north. And it's pretty fresh. It was probably, it's hard to tell actually if it was early this morning or last night, but it's on top of the baboon, and the baboon moved here yesterday because we found them this morning. Okay, well, sounds like Tristan has got some tracks he'd like to show you. Let's go see what it is.
Well, talking about movement, we finally found what we've been trying to find the whole morning, which is tracks for a leopard, and it's dead center of Djuma, which is good. It's tracks, I would imagine, for Tlalamba. It's, like I say, right in the middle of her territory, and they're coming up the road here. They're quite fresh by the looks of things, on top of all the birds from this morning, on top of the hyenas from last night. So we'll try to see if we can find a way. They've gone, though, it's not very pleasant at all. They've gone into quite a steep, dense area that's very thick. So we'll try and just loop around now and go on to the other side here towards Ingwe Alley side and see if we can't pick up tracks coming out there. I don't think anyone's driven this area this morning, so we'll try and kind of figure it out. But she definitely cut into the block here, but she, like I say, is on top of the hyenas and on top of the various birds that have walked around during the course of yesterday and this morning. So let's see, just maybe we'll get lucky and pick her up. I'm trying to think when I drove here. I think I drove here yesterday. I mean, pretty much driven everywhere the last few days. I think I was here yesterday. I don't know. Well, we'll see. They look pretty good, so don't look as though they were 2 minutes ago good, but they do look okay, and the wind has disturbed them slightly, but not much, so I'm expecting them to be like around sunrise, somewhere there. But let's check. It's a while ago already. Now you'll see Morgan's hand come in front of the lens. It's just wiping it. Might be dust or something that's on there. It's windy, dusty conditions out here, so it happens. Just trying to think which way she's going to go from here, because normally her routes, Tlalamba doesn't have normal at this stage. She's so all over the place that it's difficult to know which way she's going to head. But her direction is north, and then she's cutting west, and so I'm hoping that I'll pick up her tracks heading up towards kind of quarantine area. That would be, I reckon, a good place to check, or Rebecca's somewhere there, one of those two roads. She might, though, turn and come back up this side. This is we're running on the edge of the Mulawati at the moment, which is a place where we know that she uses a lot. It's also, we're not far from where she was denning at one point with that last cub before she lost it. So we know that she does like this section. It's just a matter of seeing which way she goes, because she can go either way today. Alright, little Tlalamba, come on. Come out for us. Just going to check very carefully here, because if she did turn, she would have come this side. Nope. Nothing there. So where she will come out is an area that's got a lot of little mud wallows that's kind of situated around, but all of them are dry at the moment, so I'd expect she'll just bypass it. But I'm hoping that she's going to just pop out onto the road somewhere here, and then we'll pick up her tracks again and then go to the western side of quarantine. That sort of direction is what I would imagine is going to happen here. Jackie, they can. Female leopards can, if they're clever, can move all over the place to try and find males to mate with, so as that they can protect any potential sort of change in male territories. So Karula was particularly good at this. She used to go all over the place to try and take males away from where she or to try and take males on that were on the fringes of her territory. I mean, I remember once finding her like 3 female territories over with a male leopard mating, and she was, you know, trying to kind of, it was actually Tingana, funnily enough, that she was mating with back when he was still dominant, more around sort of Elephant Plains, Mambili area. So she went all the way that side, across Shadow's territory, through Salahesh's territory, down, and then she was actually in Moya's territory at the time, when she was mating with Tingana. And we had actually quite a cool sighting of Moya, Karula, and Tingana all on a kill, fighting over the kill. It was pretty interesting to watch, and then mating. So yeah, they'll travel to mate with males if they feel like that's what they need to do to ensure the survival of their cubs. They most certainly will. That's possibly what's happening at the moment, and why Kalamba is spending more time on Little Gari, is because she's mating with Mulawati. I mean, it just can only be Mulawati that's mating with her, because we're just not finding any sign of her mating with anyone here. And there's not really many other potential candidates, if I'm honest, at this time. I know Tavangumi's around, but he hasn't really proved to mate yet, so it's not kind of, at this stage, it doesn't seem like he's taken on that mantle just yet. But that's because of Mulawati's movement and his kind of quarantine southwards. She's hanging in all these areas where he is. And I think if she started to mate, let's say, with Tavangumi, we'd start to see her distributing back northwards again. So let's hope that that happens, and then her territory will even out a little bit and become much more Djuma-centric, rather than now it seems like Djuma's just the northern fringe at the moment rather than central part. So she should have come out by now. Yeah, there we go. She's on the road here, walking. It's a bit tricky to drive here and look, because it's so dense and the road is so narrow and not easy to actually see tracks on. But I'm pretty sure I just saw tracks of her going along here. See, now I've lost them already. She likes to often just cut straight through up towards Philemon's Dip. So Michael, like I've just said, I'm pretty sure that's why her movements are the way that they are. So it's just a go-away bird calling here. Go-away birds calling. There were 2 of them that were calling. They don't seem like they're too upset with life, though. So, Michael, yeah, I think it's just a male thing more than anything else. I think it's just so unsettled with males at the moment that she's just trying to keep her territory within a space. Did you hear that, Morgan? Just here. There's Impala's alarm calling right here. So with this go-away bird calling and the Impala calling, you can see the Impala up there staring. So yeah, I think it's just with the males kind of coming and changing and being so unsettled that she's just trying to find an area where it is a little bit more settled, but that's dragging her into areas that are causing her to come across. Now, which Impalas is it? Is it these ones or that one? Those ones are fine. Let's just try here. I saw an impala on top here just like staring, and it sounded like that alarm call came from this side. Is it you guys? Looks like you guys that are calling inside here. They're all facing into this area, which is along this drainage line, which would make sense. A lot of wildebeest, impalas. Hello, everybody. Could have been a male rat noise. It's just like with leopard tracks, impala alarming, go-away birds alarming. You'd expect that maybe, just maybe, it's her. She likes this little drainage line and then up onto Rebecca's road. Come on, Kalamba. Daisy, not sure what you're asking. Birds don't alarm call for predators that don't eat them. They alarm call for predators that do eat them. So, yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're referring to birds alarm calling at leopards, well, leopards eat them all the time. So, it's very, very, very possible that a leopard grabs a bird. In fact, they do it far more regularly than you think. Particularly when they're young. Even small birds are a meal for them. So yeah, I'm not really sure which predators you're referring to. Out here, like I say, leopard will go after pretty much any bird that they can. There she is. There we go. Yes, yes. Yay. I just thought she would be here somewhere. I just heard the birds go as I just looked up and she was in the road. Hello, Kalamba. You're so sneaky sometimes, you know that. But don't go in there, don't go in there. It's okay. They've been shouting at you, but we found you, and now she'll just do. And remember, I was saying she'll go up Rebecca's road or up towards western side of quarantine. This is exactly Rebecca's road, and she's busy scent marking. So happy that we found her. The problem is she likes from here to cut into this block, and that is not funny to try and follow her in. So I don't know how long we're going to have her for, but at least we've managed to find her. Are you going to go that way? That's even better. If she goes that way, we're all right. You can see though how she's missioning. She's a busy, busy, busy cat. Always walking, this cat, and always like doing things. It's hard to keep up with her. But glad that we've managed to at least find her. Just trying to give her a little bit of space because of late she's been a little jumpy, and so I don't want her to kind of run and trot and those kinds of things, but I've already lost her. Can you see her, Morgan? Okay, well done. If you can see her, that's a good thing. Are we heading in the right way, Morgan? Yeah? Okay, she's on our right hand side. There we go. So everyone's happy that we found her and saying well done. Well, I mean, it wasn't really much skill involved there. It was literally just some tracks on a road and then some birds and an impala that gave it away. It was interesting though. It just goes to show you that with impalas, you know, sometimes we think that they're all going to go crazy and the wildebeest will go crazy, but it must have been just one impala that saw her and shouted at her, because it was only 2 alarm calls that I heard and then they went quiet. And so I don't even think they saw her properly. I think they just kind of picked up that there was something on the wind. Maybe the go-away birds just made it kind of sound like, or alerted them to something, and then they may have just picked up the scent and one was shouting. But it was interesting to see how the whole herd wasn't alarm calling. So try and squeeze through here. Interested to see where she's going. She's doing quite an interesting loop now. Her direction was kind of northwest, and now she's changing back south towards sort of Treehouse Dam area. It looks like she's looking for food as well as scent marking. When is she not? She's always busy, this cat. You see how fast she moves as well. This is what makes tracking her so difficult, is that she often covers ground much faster than you can walk. So I find with her, tracking her on foot is near useless. You just don't cover the ground necessary to keep up with her. At least she's taking us through a nice open spot. So I'm just going to actually turn off for a bit and just so we can watch her while she goes through this. Isn't she magnificent though? I love the color of her coat. She's got the most beautiful coat, and then those light colored eyes of hers. She's a stunning cat, this. Drives me crazy, but incredibly beautiful. See how also everything's a matter of timing. We had come 10 minutes later, we wouldn't have heard the impala, we would have picked up the track, but she would have gone in here. It would have been much tougher to keep up with her. So yeah, it just goes to show. All right, let's catch up before she disappears on me again. I just thought it would be nice just to watch her a little bit before, while she's in a semi-open spot. Where she's going now, it's all right, it's not bad, so we should keep her for a while still. Just depends on where she crosses the drainage. There's a few points where I can cross, and there's a few points where I can't. So I'm hoping she takes, there's one just in front here that goes through and onto the other side, which I'm hoping she takes, and then she takes us maybe to Treehouse Dam. That would be nice. The good news though is that she's not too bad. She's not like she's trotting from us this morning, which is good. The last little bit she's been, from accounts from everybody else and one or two sightings I've had of her, she was a bit trotty and a bit kind of all over the place, whereas today she just looks like her normal self and just meandering. In fact, actually the other day when I found her too, it was exactly the same. She was just doing her little, Kalamba meander. Keep up with her. I'm sorry if I'm not as talkative. It's just to try and concentrate on where I'm driving here. It's not the easiest area to be able to get through. No, don't go that way. That's not a good way for us, because crossing there is near impossible. If she had carried on in front of me, the crossing is just on the right side here, but let's see what she does. Maybe she'll turn. Look at the tail. The tail is twitching all over the place. Alright, let's try and see if I can find a way to keep up with her, or relocate her, because we're going to have to just zip around. I don't even know what's possible at the moment in this drainage line after the rains. I haven't been in here for a while, so I'm going to try and see if I can get in. Try and squeeze in here and see if I can cross, because we should be able to cross straight over. It's washed a little bit, but it should be okay. Particularly if we just try and go across over here. I don't know where she went. I've lost her now, but I'll try to find her again in this area.
Welcome back, everybody. Got some very nice small tracks again over here, and we're looking right now at this little individual. I stepped. Here's 1, 2, and then 3 over there. Very nice little hoof track. Let me just put this on that side. Let's get the size, shall we? So there's the back. Looking at about 3.5, 4 centimeters. Now, what's quite easy to see is that the front foot is stepped there, and the back foot stepped directly on it. What we call registering, direct registering, where the front foot is then stepped on. A way of animals moving quietly. We see that with Duiker, Steenbok, Ngala, Kudu, and the like. And what's very characteristic of this track is how sharp and straight it is in the front there. Duiker have got pretty stubby front hoof, but this animal here, very straight, very sharp, is for the Steenbok. Now, what's quite easy to see as well is if I draw a line between the middle of these tracks, you'll notice that the Steenbok's track is pretty much pointing forward. It might look like he's a little bit facing outwards, but with the Ngala and the Duiker, they got very outward-facing tracks, what we call duck-footed, whereas the Steenbok is very sort of parallel with that line of walking. It might just be slightly the contour here, but that very sharpness there in the track, very, very sharp, is a very characteristic feature of the Steenbok. The Duiker also digs his toes in a bit, so that you get a track that looks like he's standing on his toes more than walking on his flat foot. I think that's a really nice little track of the Steenbok. But over here, on my left of the track here, is a very cool track of a bird, which I think was a hornbill. Here you can see its foot, and it took off. Here's his tail. Basically was standing here. I probably walked into this from somewhere. There's the tail, there's the foot, and it jumped and took off right over here. Actually kicked some sand back, and probably a little bit of its body touched just over there as it lifted off the ground. I can't be 100% certain, but I have a very strong feeling that that is from a hornbill that was standing here. It might even have been a starling, but I think it's a hornbill. It jumped into the air. Wouldn't that be amazing? Such a wonderful feeling of just being able to just launch yourself skyward. And boy, would you like that? If I had a superhero power, it would definitely be to fly. Definitely be to fly. So everybody, I hope you're enjoying the tracking segments this morning. Here we've got another one in the middle. It's a very common antelope. And I've destroyed the one at the back here. And this is the track. Zusia, tracking is a marvelous art, isn't it? I absolutely love tracking. Let me just do it over here. This is a little bit better. So we talk about directly registering, and this is the same animal here. And you'll see how that's the front foot, the back foot is completely overstepping. Okay, a very characteristic sign of the impala. The impala in this very soft sand is showing a very nice amount of room here, but there's always this gap in the back. But impala walk on that outside of the hoof there. Outside of the hoof, walking in obviously this direction, and they overstep because the impala's hips are taller than their shoulders. They are spring-loaded. They are ready to just rock and go as soon as something tries to catch them. So impala have that ability to just elasticize their body and just jump and go, and their hips stand higher than their shoulders. So when they walk, they always overstep their front foot. There's no need for impalas to walk quietly. There are about 50 to 100 of them in a herd. So they make lots of noise. So silence is not their middle name. Their middle name is being able to jump, run, and elude predation. Okay, well, we're going to carry on, see what else we can find for you, and send you back over to Lauren.
Look who we found. Sadly, he's put his head down now. It was up. Looking magnificent as always, Mr. Darkmane. But, you know, he's now sleeping. Look at the size of those paws. They are huge. Now, as I mentioned, Darkmane is part of the Avoca Coalition, and I know many of you know that, but some of you may not. He's one of 3. And he comes from Avoca. It's a place really not too far away from here. We drive past it on our way into town. And he's said to be about 8 years old now. And he really does spend the bulk of his time on his own. With male lions, it's normal for them to separate. You want a bigger territory, then you're going to have to all patrol it separately, or that's a lot of walking for one individual. He spends the bulk of his time with the Talamatis. Not always, but mostly you will find Darkmane with the Talamatis. And maybe you're a daddy now, another one. New little offspring running around in the Talamati pride that I am so excited to meet. But of course, the females will have mated with many different Avocas, so it might not, well, Darkmane might not be the father, but there's also a high chance he is. And this lion can sleep, everybody. Oh, he can sleep. He's so relaxed around vehicles. Many of you are so happy to see him, me too. He does have a limp. I guess a broken sort of bone that didn't heal correctly. I mean, that's why we get stookies, right? Davy laughs at me when I say that word. What do you call it?
A cast.
Oh, a cast. How boring. We call them stookies in Scotland. And I mean, Darkmane didn't have that. You can't sort of realign that bone, and therefore it appears to have healed not correctly, and therefore that's why he limps. Other than that, this lion will surprise you. He can absolutely hunt on his own. I mean, he definitely won't be taking on a giraffe on his own, but the power behind this animal is incredible. The curse is broken, everyone. Tristan got Tlalamba, and I'm sitting here with Darkmane. Woohoo! And he's probably been walking all night, calling all night, maybe even hunting, maybe having a snack. So naturally, as soon as that sun delivers warmth, he's sleepy. He's probably going to go into a very, very deep sleep. Ray, I'm not sure I can answer that question. I think 8 years for a lion is 8 years for a lion. I know they say that for dogs, 1 year is 7 years. I'm not really sure of the science behind that. But he's not a human. He's a lion. And he's 8. He's still in his prime. He's still a territorial holder. He's still part of the Avocas. I remember when I first met the Avocas, when I first came here. They'd only sort of recently arrived to Djuma when I arrived, and they looked so much younger. You know, when you see something every day, you don't really notice the changes. if someone's putting on weight or going grey, because you're seeing them all the time. But if you don't see someone for a long time and then you see them, you think, oh my goodness, you look so different. I didn't realise until I started looking at photos of how young the avocas actually looked. They're short little manes, not as dark, not as long, not as hairy. And of course they came here and they just found Djuma completely vacant. The Birmingham boys just left it, just gave up this area of their territory, moved down south, and the avocas came in and thought, wait, hey, there's no one here going to challenge us. And they set up shop, and they've been here ever since. But it's been a really long time since I spent time with Mohawk and Blondie, and I'm going to be honest with you, they are terrible names. I don't really think lions should be called Darkmane, Mohawk, or Blondie, but for the avocas, that's the names they have been given. I think we can think of a much fiercer name for our coalition. Excuse me, everyone, I'm going to have to take a sip of water. I'm afraid my throat is not doing so well this morning. Okay, Darkmane is definitely not going anywhere, and neither are we. We have another wonderful guest with us, Sergio Real. Sergio is a holder of the Ticket to Dream.
I bought a Ticket to Dream because I love WildEarth. All of the guides have been awesome. We've been watching for years, and it's a favorite part of my day to get to watch the drives. I look forward to seeing lots of leopards.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
My favorite part of the drive today was definitely an elephant that paid us a visit and came right to our car.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
It's amazing being on a live drive in Djuma. It's just fantastic. The scenery is beautiful and the animals are even better.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon, and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feeds.
Hello everybody, welcome back to some more tracks on the ground. Now, really nice to be able to compare certain animals. I spoke before about the steenbok, which we've got here. Very, very sharp and straight. And off it goes in that direction. And now just over here, we've got the track of a duiker, which you can see the size here. It's a bit rounded on the side. Same story, he's also stepped on his front foot, which is there. and the back foot. But look how stubby it is at the front there. Very stubby, as nowhere near as sharp. Nowhere near as sharp. And this duiker has walked straight across. Where's he gone to? Yeah, the duiker is there, and is there. So if I drew a line through the middle, there's the third track there. Yeah, it's not always easy to see, but they often have this very duck-footed sort of track there. See how round it is in front. It's as if they step into the ground. There goes the duiker. You see how very similar the tracks are though, everybody? Very, very similar, so it's nice to compare. The size is also pretty much the same, but you can see how sort of narrow it is at the back here. There's the front foot of the steenbok. There's the back foot, quite narrow, very sharp. And the duiker, the back, it rounds off nicely and very blunt. And both of them walk, as we call direct register, so as to be able to walk quietly. Now, in amongst this, we've got tracks of a small mammal as well that is running. There we go. There we go. All 4 feet on the ground, from here to there, right here in amongst the steenbok track. Once again, see how sharp the steenbok track is. This is the track of a dwarf mongoose. There's more than one. There's a couple of them around here, the dwarf mongoose, and this is him moving at extreme speed from there to there to there, running, or what we say wikkeling in South Africa. He's on the move, and we find many of these animals often associated with each other. Kelly, the smallest thing we can show you tracks of, I wouldn't say any of these I'd be able to track and find, but the smallest things we look at are beetles, bugs, small rodents, and like. I might see if I can find you 1 or 2 of those. Small birds, beetles, antlion larvae, which is probably one of the smallest things you can find. Ticks. They all have very interesting little tracks on the ground. But I hope you're enjoying these little segments of comparing the sizes. You might notice that I'm always using a measurement tool. If you ever do take a photograph of something, remember to have some form of measurement tool. It could be a lighter, it could be a matchbox, it could be your knife. This knife is 10 centimeters. It could be a ruler. But don't take a photo of something if you don't have a measurement, because if you don't have a measurement, you don't know how big it is. Pictures are very, very hard to really get a grasp of. You can compare leopard with a lion track, and if you don't have a measurement, you won't know. But Lauren's got a line, so let's send you back to her.
Dark mange tracks. Now they are big. I've used my hand as a measuring device many times on his tracks, and they are huge, much bigger than my hand. He looks so innocent, like butter wouldn't melt, but I can assure you, that's not the case, is it, boy? I wish we could get the chance to see all 3 of them together again. I'd love that. I remember the days we used to spend time with the 3 of them, and it was always a nice, tender affair. Gentle interactions, a lot of bonding. I mean, when females were involved, when there was mating going on, a little bit of aggression, but really not much. I'd love to see them together again. I think Darkmane's injury just slowed him down. He still moves great distances, don't get me wrong. He's still able to move. But I think it's just easier for him to keep an eye on the Talamati ladies, make sure they don't do anything naughty. And the Talamatis naturally hunt. They hunt regularly, and, well, he gets free snacks. Living the dream. But Darkmane was the individual who I had my closest encounter with a lion. It was with Darkmane, and I think that's why I would choose him as my favourite. I've got a soft spot for Blondie too. but I'm sure you remember when Darkmane was mating with one of the Nkuhuma ladies on Philemon's cut line. And the mating couple actually came very, very close to the car, but that was fine. There was still enough distance. They moved towards us. And then Darkmane stood up and he just took a couple of steps towards the car, and I could have reached out my hand and ruffled his mane if I wanted to, which I obviously wouldn't do, and it's the most closest encounter I've ever had to a male lion, and it was tense. Andre was my cameraman, and I even heard him do a big gulp. Something like that. But it was a wonderful sighting, and he wasn't coming to the car. He was skinny, he was weak, he was exhausted from all the mating. Now, Chad, you were asking, is that ticks? Yeah, looks like it. Big, fat ticks, full of blood. Well spotted. I didn't even spot them. It's 100% ticks. And normally, I mean, he could scratch them off if he did that sort of maneuver with his back leg. That's not always a good idea. Normally, ticks, when they get so full and they've gorged themselves some blood, they'll just drop off. They'll sort of release and fall to the ground. But they are two, at least two that I can see, very fat ticks. I wonder if he's got any on his ears, Dwarf. I love that contrast between blonde and black hair. It looks like a really bad hair dye job. A home job when they don't go to the hairdressers. No, he hasn't actually. His mouth's even open a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts drooling soon. But before I left during my last stint here, when Jonty was here actually, the Talamatis killed a waterbuck very close to Nsinga, and unfortunately we're not getting signal there anymore, which is unfortunate, of course. But Jonty went up to check, and there was a male there, so people automatically assumed, oh, it's Darkmane. But on closer inspection, people were like, that's not Darkmane. He's smaller. His mane's not as dark, and he's not got a limp. This is not Darkmane. And it turns out it was another male. I think it was one of these S8 males coming from the Kruger that was feeding on the waterbuck with the Talamatis. Now that's unusual. Where were you, boy? Why were you not eating the waterbuck? I haven't actually heard on the radio if the Talamatis have been found this morning. But they're not on Djuma. Okay, we're going to sit here with our sleepy kitty cat. And you guys are going to head over to Tristan, who's on the move.
Well, while Lawrence is with Darkmane, we're trying to find Kalamba again. She's... She's a tough cat some days. She just crossed the drainage and I just couldn't get through there. I had to try across somewhere else. So I went around her, but like, I don't know, what do you think, Morgan? A minute away from her? Yeah. And she was gone. So, just trying to see... There's no way she's come this far, so what I might do is just turn, go back again, and then do the block round, or... Yeah, I don't know. Her direction is erratic right now. Her general direction should have been west, and northwest is what from the tracks, but then when we found her, she went south, and then kind of went into the last I saw her, she was dropping into the drainage line, and then I didn't see where she went from there. So she could have cut the drainage line back east towards those impalas. She could have come west in the drainage line. She could have crossed straight over the drainage line. So what we're betting now is that she went over the drainage line somewhere. And now I'm just driving the southern road just in case she pops out. I'm trying to look very carefully. When she crossed the other day, she crossed right here where we are right now. So I'm just checking carefully to see if she's not scent marking the same route again. I know kind of roughly the big trees that she marked as we went. And so I was kind of checking those at the bases of them just to see if I can't see that little white tail flick through, or some sort of semblance of spots through the thickets. Unfortunately also where she crossed, it's a very dense, very difficult area, and there's two drainage lines that converge there. And those areas are not really navigable, I'm afraid. So I don't know, I can try and go back there in case. Maybe she's stalking something, that's possible, from the block. Or she's just changed direction and gone back northwest up towards Rebecca's Road again. So what I'll do is I'll do this stretch again now, and then we'll go up, round, back down, and then come back here again. And if her tracks have crossed, then we know we kind of at least not far behind her. But this is Tlalamba, and this is what makes her tough in many respects. If she's not on a kill, then she's busy like this. So we'll just try and see what we can do, and hopefully we find her again.
We're sitting here with our very sleepy male lion who has just been spotted by kudus. They're alarm calling, so you may hear them. I love hearing alarm calls. You hear that? They're angry. So we're just going to sit here and watch our lion who's sleeping, completely ignoring the angry kudu behind him. I'm happy to see this male lion, Mr. Darkmane, but the kudu are not. I hope you can hear them. They're really alarm calling in the background there, and he has not even blinked an eyelid.
Welcome back to Pradens, everybody, and we were talking about tracks earlier and the reason why we put measurements next to it. I noticed that there's a very large track here that if I put my knife down, would actually require double of my knife to fill it. So that's 20 centimeters. There's only one animal out here that's got a track of such a large size, and that is of the camelopardus. The camel horse, the Savannah giraffe, or the southern giraffe we find here. And the side of the track is very straight, very parallel, you'd say. The weight of the giraffe often leaves this indentation, where the front of the hoof is kicked up, and then there's a line through the middle with the typical hoof pattern at the back, and everything in between is very flat because of the weight of the giraffe. A giraffe, big male giraffe, is weighing at 1,500 kilograms. That's a very big animal, 13,000 pounds. Big animal. Here is the back foot, and they're also at the tip of the hoof breaking through. It's not as wide as that of the front foot, and also quite straight. And a giraffe cannot do what we call direct register, which is the front foot and back foot at the same time, because when they walk, both of their right legs move and both of their left legs move. It's the way the giraffe walks. So if they happen to step on the same track, they would kick themselves and fall over, and that would be rather awkward. So when a giraffe walks, both right legs move, both legs move, and they cover an enormous amount of ground in their normal walking gait. When they run, that's a different story altogether. But the southern giraffe, there are 7, or some people say 9 subspecies of giraffe now in Africa, but no one else has got a track quite like that of the giraffe. Even a young giraffe, the straightness of the sides differentiated from that of a buffalo, which is quite round, and also that of an eland. The eland's got a very similar track to a buffalo, and if we did find one, I'd like to show it to you, but there's a slight difference in the symmetry of an eland track versus buffalo. So there we go. You can see why it's important to measure. Without the measurement, you wouldn't really get the size comparison there, would you? Giraffe. Okay, so we're going to slowly start making our way back towards Leopard Dam. Maybe we'll have a nice little quiet moment there. Maybe it's time for a coffee, and we'll send you over to Lauren in the meantime and see how she's enjoying her time with Darkman.
The impala have been snorting. They've spotted Darkmane. But I can't see the impala, which is baffling me. How do they see him? He's at the base of a termite mound. The kudu see him. Or at least I think they do. They're very suspicious over there. But it's all calmed down a little bit. The alarm calls have calmed down. Why? Probably because Darkmane has not moved a muscle or even opened his eyes. He is posing no threat right now. Or is he pretending? I don't think he's pretending. He's posing no threat. But the kudu are aware of him, but I just can't even see impala. I can hear them. I can't see them. But impala will react to very strong scents as well. So even if they don't see him, but the scent is very, very strong, which means the animal is close, they will also react to strong scents. See an impala now, that makes sense. Okay, they're on the other side.
You still see them. You still see them.
Do you see them? Oh, maybe not. I just see legs walking along here. The impala are here. So he's got kudu to his eastern side. Western side. Impala on his eastern side, and he's still sleeping. He mustn't be hungry, but that tummy really does not look very full. Are you not hungry, boy? Not right now, but there's a section of the cut line we haven't checked. White mane. White mane, you love dark mane. It's your favorite lion, I know. He's mine. He's my favorite lion out here. Male lion. And we didn't used to get to spend too much time with him. The Talamatis were always on Buffelshoek. I mean, for the first year and a half, maybe even 2 years that I've been here, the Talamatis were always this pride that were just on Buffelshoek, the property that we could not go to. Lo and behold, as soon as we got traverse on Buffelshoek, the Talamatis started coming down into Djuma. And we got to spend a lot more time with them. We still don't get to spend too much time with them, but a lot more than the Nkuhumas. And what I explained yesterday is that the lions are not always here. Their territory is huge. It's way bigger than just Djuma and Chitwa, which is pretty much our traverse right now in terms of signal. So you can go for weeks on end without seeing the lions. We can hear the updates of what they're getting up to, but it's only recently that sort of our time spent on drives includes the Talamatis now. And because Darkmane was always with the Talamatis, there's long periods of time we didn't get to see him. Did you see that little paw movement there? But right now he's on the cut line. He's on the northern cut line. We call it Buffelshoek cut line. And he's on the Djuma side. But either way, I mean, he's right next to the road. Cooper, it depends what he's defending them against. Lionesses are also huge animals. Okay, not as big and as heavy as a male lion, but they're still way bigger than a male leopard. And there's lots of them. Lionesses can be so fierce, especially when they're protecting their young. So it really depends what he would be defending them against. I mean, if it was a huge coalition of 5 male lions, probably not. If it was even a coalition of 3 male lions, probably not. Also depends how the lionesses react. Lionesses at the end of the day will do whatever it takes, not to protect him, sadly, to protect their offspring. And if the safe... If the safest thing to do for a pride of lionesses, if, let's just say, for example, and this is hypothetical, a coalition of 5 came in and started challenging, they wanted to take over the Talamati pride. If that's the safest thing for them to do at that time to protect each other and to protect their young, then that's what they'll do. It's not always the safest thing for the young when the cubs are young. If the cubs are below 1 year of age, unfortunately, that's when the infanticide levels are extremely high. But lionesses will do whatever it takes to protect each other, to protect their pride and their young. I don't think it's easy to be a lioness. But luckily they've got each other and that really sort of social cohesive unit. So I don't know what level of protection Darkmane can offer the pride. I mean, he's vocal, he's still territorial, but it really depends on what he was protecting them against at the end of the day. If he was right next to Blondie and Mohawk, then he's obviously got a better chance, the 3 of them. I'm not even sure how Darkmane is finding this position comfortable right now, but he is. So we're going to sit here just a little bit longer.
Suspended above Kenya's Masai Mara is a breathtaking lodge where unrivaled service goes hand in hand with extraordinary wildlife sightings. Ngala Mara offers a quiet place where guests have the opportunity to reconnect with the world again. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of July, and you and a friend could win a 3-night stay at this award-winning lodge. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. As one of the industry's best and Fagasa Indoors training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, still no luck with Kalamba. We've done a loop round. I can't find tracks coming out. I had some squirrels alarm calling, but it just seemed way too far from where we left her, but one never knows. But there wasn't any tracks, so to speak, in that area. So I'm just coming back round to the last direction I thought she would be traveling, and we're just going to go nice and slow here in case she's come out. She's, like I said, when we were with her, she was covering distance quite quickly, but not as fast as to get all the way up at the top there. So what I expect of her is that she's kind of been waylaid in the block somewhere and maybe is hunting. I found one impala that was looking pretty chilled. So I might, if nothing this side, then I'll go back to him to see if maybe she's picked up on him and is watching that impala. When you lose a leopard like this in a block this kind of size, I mean, it's difficult to know which direction she's going to go because she wasn't meandering, she was moving, and I'm pretty sure she's in like doing a dual purpose walk this morning, which is to spray where she can, but actually she's looking for food more than anything else. She didn't look like she was particularly full, so I think more than anything she's just trying to find something to eat at this particular time, which means that her movement is not going to be in any way predictable. In fact, it's going to be as unpredictable as you could possibly imagine, and she's going to change direction and turn and loop and do all the things that is going to make it hard for us to find her. So it just goes to show how lucky we were to actually get her on that road to start with. Anytime you're looking for one of these spotted cats, there's a massive element of luck to it. I mean, yes, my mom was just like this as a young cat as well. Back exactly the same. When I first started seeing Tundi was when she was 3 years old, so a little bit younger than what Kalamba is now. And she was behaved exactly the same way. She used to just be like always walking and looking for food and just generally being difficult. Not because it's, you know, she's doing it just because she doesn't want to be with us. It's just because they business cats. These are cats that have things that they want to do and they do them quickly, and that just makes it hard for us. The environment and the terrain that they use is not conducive to off-roading at speed. And when it's just one car like it is with us at the moment, there's nobody else in this area to help us, so we're having to do this whole block kind of time and time again, just trying to find her with nobody else's inputs and nobody else's ears or eyes. So that's what makes it tough. But yeah, she's just like her mom, very similar. Has the ability to disappear in seconds and is generally quite an active cat. Her mom seems to have slowed down a bit these days and is kind of taking it easy, but she seems to, when she was younger, she was a nightmare as well. Just always walking and always turning and changing and walking quickly. So yeah, I mean, I think, she's learnt a lot from her mom. It's generally the case. Sometimes you get offspring that aren't like their mothers. They break the mold slightly. But yeah, for the most part, they learn a lot of their behavioral things from their mothers. I just want to check Treehouse Dam, just in the off chance that she's turned and come down this way, because I'm pretty sure that herd of wildebeest impala that we saw initially when we were looking for her, that came down this way. So maybe, just maybe, she's following down to come and hunt them. It's possible. I don't think so, but it is possible. So if there's nothing here, it means that she either lay up somewhere under a tree somewhere and just taking it nice and easy, or she's still busy in there hunting. In which case, it'll have to be an afternoon mission to find her again. The good news is that we know there's no tracks coming out yet. So if we find tracks, we know the kind of freshness of those tracks. Nothing coming down here. Just want to go slowly because it looks like somebody's stopped for drinks here. They didn't call in that they were stopping for drinks, I don't think. So, and Kalamba definitely won't come down if people are here. She'll just bypass. She doesn't like people on foot that much. You see here the wildebeest are. They're coming down for water now. Sorry guys, are you waiting for everybody to move off so you can come for water? Pretty sure they'll be done soon. I think these guys must be loving the fact that there's no lions around. Betty, so Kalamba will be 4 in October, November. She was born kind of last week of October, beginning week of November, somewhere there. The impalas of 2017. So yeah, she'll be 4 years old around that time. So what is she now then? She's 3 years and so she's 3 years 9 months around there. So yeah, still young, still a young cat. So I'm hoping that she'll have cubs again soon. I want her to do well. She'll be such a cool mom to have around because I think she's quite busy, so she'll engage her cubs quite often and play, and which will be fun to see. And I also hope that she gets cubs that are like her, or that were like her when she was young, and give her a hard time a little bit, because shame, she gave her mother a difficult time. Mom would call and she would just do her own thing. So I think it'll be good if she gets cubs that teach her what it's like to have to raise naughty little things that don't listen. But she hasn't come here. There's no tracks trailing these impalas. Nope, definitely not trailing these impalas. Alright, so it means that she's either laid down or she's gone and taken a bit of a nap. Or she's hunting in that block and found something else. So we'll try and figure it out and try and decode the mystery of where little Columbo went. Just trying to think which way I want to go now. I think let's take Rebecca's because she was generally moving northwest, so she might have just hugged the drainage. It's going to come out in a northwesterly direction. The problem with her is even if she hasn't come out now, by this afternoon she could be on the other side of the property. She moves so quick some days. Alright, so let's just keep checking and we'll just be patient and perseverant and hopefully eventually we get it right.
We're still sitting with our sleepy lion. There's something quite enjoyable and relaxing and calming about a sleeping animal, especially one as magnificent as this. It's almost like a meditation in some way. So let's try and do that. Take a big inhale and exhale, everyone. And we're just going to spend a few moments watching this gorgeous male lion sleep. Did you find that relaxing? I definitely did. This male lion definitely did. We're going to keep watching him sleep.
Welcome to Leopard Dam, where we've concluded a number of tracks this morning and thought we'd just come and sit down by the water. Just take it really easy, allow you all a beautiful few moments of silence around the watering hole. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of silence. While we sit here and reflect a little bit longer, let's send you back over to Lauren and Djuma.
Someone's popped their head up. It's not me. It's the back of his head, but still, it's a head. It's not on the ground. His tail's twitching. He hears something. It's not us. We've been talking this entire time. Oh, boom. High action right there, everyone. I'm only teasing. I do want to quickly just finish checking the boundary, though. I've done, I would say, about 75% of the boundary, but there's an area that's not being checked, and I just want to see if there's any signs of the Talamatis crossing. I really do want to catch up with this pride. I'm sure many of you are excited to see the cubs and just generally spend some time with them, but I've not finished checking the boundary line. I can't confirm if they're on Djuma or not. They're going to come to Djuma one day, and we're going to get to see them. But it's times have changed. Now that they've got new cubs for the sub-adults, things are going to start to change, which is normal, just like the hyena clan. Over time, dynamics change, just like with humans. So I think after this, we will say goodbye to Snoozy Darkmane so that I can just quickly check the boundary, and then at least I know for the afternoon if anything is crossed in or out. Darkmane, where are your lady friends? Oh. I got a tail swoosh. He's talking to me with his tail. You see how much thinner a lion's tail is at the end than a leopard's? Completely different shape. You see, he's talking to us. Woo! He's also swatting flies away from his precious genitals, naturally. Okay, Darkmane, thank you for being here today. Many people love you. We're now going to go in search of your lady friends. But unfortunately, it's in the complete opposite direction from where I'm facing, so I am going to have to do a bit of a U-turn, and wish me luck. Hopefully we pick up on some signs of the Talamatis.
Hello, my name is Marnie Kell from the Greater Toronto Area of Ontario, Canada. I am most excited to meet some of the guides that I feel I already know. And I'm going to very much enjoy riding along with them to see what they see most days while they're broadcasting these safaris to us, while also staying at the beautiful Simbambili Lodge. WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Sign up to be an explorer today, and it could be you jetting off on an all-expenses-paid-for safari experience. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for the environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only Earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our Earth.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Welcome back to Leopard Dam. We had just a small group of impala come down to the water. There's a bit of wind coming from the west. That berg wind continues to blow from yesterday, drying out the landscape, and impala that are eaten by almost everything get a little bit jumpy in the wind, as we all do, get a bit jumpy. I came down and had a little drink, a couple of them, but not all of them have sated themselves. Water, such an important element in the livelihood of many of these animals. Ruminants require a lot of saliva. The saliva is filled with microorganisms which are used for breaking down the food. Impala being one of the more water dependent, at least they choose to be. Never found too far away from a body of water. Laurie, well, when the ratting season comes, the male who decides to pick up a group of females will chase any male away. And away from the herd, even the young bachelors, the young sort of 1.5-year-olds, they'll be booted. So yes, there's a lot of that. But, the cohesive body or cohesive family units, it's very hard to really know. You find the females with their offspring generations gone by. Who's who in the zoo, it's very hard to tell. But you generally find family units sticking together. But boys after 1.5 years are not welcome in the herd due to the competitive nature of the rutting males. But as the season starts to dry up and as it starts to move further away from the rutting season, impala start to accumulate again in large groups. Sometimes those separation of sexes is apparent for a lot longer. That's mainly just the testosterone in the big male who seems to be commanding the herd, and it tends to bode better for young males just to stay clear of him when they get a hiding. But they will stay in groups of their own sex, all for safety. Impala are highly gregarious, meaning they like to occur in large groups. Might seem a friendly kind of thing, but they're doing so for their own safety, so it's rather selfish. The more eyes and ears there are, the more protected they are, and the less statistically the chances of them being picked off by a predator. Okay, well, we're going to probably slowly start heading back. In the meantime, send you over to Tristan. It's on the move.
Well, it is that time of the morning to slowly start heading back. Unfortunately, we haven't had any further luck with Kalamba, but it's the way it goes. At times we win some, at times we do some, and it was just fun finding it. I was saying to Morgan just now, it's actually been really cool to have that process, and with that fact that we were live for the whole thing, from track to tracks coming out again, to birds alarm calling, to impala alarm calling, to leopard. It's not often we get that whole process in one go. So really cool to kind of see it play out that way, and it's, like I say, not really a lot of skill involved in that particular find of Kalamba. She was just lucky that she was on the road, but it's nice just to kind of see how you utilize different things in order to get to where you need to be. So birds calling first was the first indicator, and then obviously the impala shouting, and then birds again, and then her on the road. So when you're tracking, or if you ever go into the reserves, like the Kruger, if you see any sign of something being distressed, and then you hear birds like that, and often it's funny because I've been into Kruger where I've been in like a sighting, let's say, where a leopard has crossed the road and everyone's like, it's gone, and then actually you just go back, or you just sit there and you can actually hear the leopard moving with the squirrels and the birds, and if you just follow that along, often you get that cat popping out in front of you again further down the road. A lot of people just leave because they don't think it's going to come back out again, so it's always a good thing for those of you that do go to the park or do self-drive safaris. I know there's a lot of South Africans that are watching these days. Yeah, try it. Just try and listen a lot more than just looking. You'll be surprised how far it gets you. So alarm calls of impalas and things like that can help a lot with finding of animals. But it's been quite a cool morning. I mean, I know we didn't get Kalamba for long, but got a little squirrel. A squirrel's going to run off the road. I know we didn't have Kalamba for long, but it was really nice. Don't worry, Morgan, it ran off the road. It was nice to have short trunk as well. Funny enough, we were talking earlier about elephants with, unique markings and stuff. There's an elephant down that's been seen in the Sabi Sands a little bit. In fact, yesterday she was seen on the southern boundary of the Sabi Sands with the Kruger National Park, at the bridge there. But she's an elephant that's got basically what's equivalent to kind of like a cleft palate in humans. She's got a genetical defect that basically renders a hole in her face where she breathes from, and it's congenital. It wasn't an injury that she sustained. The vets have looked at her. She's got a little baby at the moment, so it'll be quite cool to see her. Fascinating to see that like anatomy and how you can see into her skull, and she still survives just fine. It's pretty cool to see. I wonder if one day we'll get cars that are like this silent. Always nice to have quiet cars. You can hear so much more. It's amazing. It's interesting. I see they've just put wire on these trees now. A lot of you might have noticed this, and it's probably not the worst thing to talk about, actually, because it's quite interesting. Of late, we've had a severe amount of destruction, particularly to marulas, by elephants. And it's not just the elephants with the marulas that have caused problems. They've also done it with knobthorns. And on the road here, we've got knobthorn on one side and marula on the other side. And so you see that there's this wire wrapping that's around the tree. Now, this actually deters elephants from being able to rip the bark of these massive trees. So they won't do this on little saplings, but of the big mature trees. They've tried to do a few of them just to try and stop the loss of all of our really big trees. Now, the reason why they've used this particular wire that you see like this is because there's quite a wide gap between each little square, and that means that things like leopards, when they're climbing here, they can still climb over that without having their feet getting caught in it or anything like that. I've actually seen a leopard go up one of these trees already, and it's not been a problem at all. The finer, more sort of small chicken mesh that you get, or what we call chicken mesh,
that's not as good. The toes can get caught in there. So they're doing this just to try and protect some of our more iconic trees. It's not on every single one, but if you do see it, don't stress and don't worry about it. It's just something that they're trying to do because, unfortunately, with the boundary fences that we have and the loss of habitat in this world, we've ended up with a situation where elephants can't migrate and can't move. So the pressure on the area is so much more intensive than it's ever been. Unfortunately, ellies, when they can't go anywhere, are going to utilize food sources throughout the year, and debarking of big iconic trees is not ideal because it renders habitat for a number of different birds and animals useless, and it kind of changes the whole area in many ways. So if we can protect some of the big ones, that particularly fruit-bearing marulas like this one, it's a big thing. The wire won't hurt the elephants. So basically what they do is they come here and they put their tusk there, and they can feel that they can't get to the bark, and then they just leave it and go. It's not going to do anything to an elephant. In fact, I saw one the other day that had been done where the elephants had gone to try and actually rub on the tree, and they kind of caked the whole tree with mud and actually used the wire as a little rubbing post. So it won't do anything to them. They won't have to worry too much about this. Like I said, the one thing that we were worried about is climbing leopards, but the way that the kind of tree is and the wire that's over it, they should be absolutely fine. And what you find with this is that it's actually quite a labor-intensive process, this, because what you've got to do after this is every couple of years you've got to actually loosen this wire. As the tree is growing, if you do it too tight, the tree has no room for expansion, and the wire actually cuts into the tree, and then it's causing a negative effect. So every time it's got to kind of be opened out again, just to keep the tree from growing. But this is the extreme measures that we've got to do just to try and keep balance because of how much we've cut off roots for big animals like this, which is pretty crazy. But we'll see how it goes and see if it works. And just so you guys know, because I know a lot of you have asked about it in the past, it's all just to try and protect our more iconic, bigger trees that we've got on the property, and to make sure that we don't lose a lot of those. Anyway, it's that time of the day where we're going to say goodbye. Hopefully you guys had a good morning with us. We hope that wherever you are, you have a wonderful evening/day, and that, it's a chill day for all of you. That's what I would say, a good chill day. But from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to seeing you this afternoon on our sunset safari.